So my name is Lisa Howard, and I am here tonight representing the Sacramento-Roseville chapter of Citizens Climate Lobby. Citizens Climate Lobby is a nonprofit, nonpartisan, grassroots advocacy organization focused on national solutions to climate change. Now you might think when you hear about climate change that we're going to talk about a lot of numbers. You hear a lot of numbers about climate change. 1.5 degrees of warming, 2 degrees of warming, 50% reduction by 2030, net zero by 2050. I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about those numbers because, quite frankly, I don't care about those numbers. I don't care about them because they're numbers, and I can't care any more than I can care that 2 plus 2 equals 4. That doesn't mean I don't think about them. I think about them almost daily. But what I care about is what we all care about, the people we love. So I'm here tonight because I have 2 kids. My son Chase is going to be a senior at Oregon State University this fall, and my daughter, who now goes by Frances, she is a junior in high school. Before I realized that climate change could have a significant impact on your life, I didn't really care that much about it. You know, I heard about it, but I certainly wouldn't have been doing this. Because my whole life, people have been talking about climate change. It's actually been a topic way before any of us were born. The first scientists, who are chemists and a physicist from opposite sides of the world, who hypothesized that certain gases in our atmosphere could warm the planet, that was way back in the 1800s. And then in the early 1900s, there was this British guy who got involved, and he started looking at how much the temperatures were changing. And then in the 1950s, we started quantifying just how much pollution we were putting into the atmosphere. In 1960s, Lyndon Johnson was the first president whose scientific advisors ever said, hey, you know this greenhouse effect thing, might be a problem at some point. But at that point, they didn't really know when or how much. And then George H.W. Bush, our first President Bush, was the president who signed the law that said the U.S. government needs to do a report every now and then to talk about global warming and its impacts in our country. So there are 13 different departments of the government who put this report together, everything from the Department of Agriculture and the Department of Defense to NASA and the NOAA. And they do this every so often, and it was one of those reports that actually changed what I thought I knew about climate change. So in the year 2018, late 2018, the 4th National Climate Assessment came out. Now, as the name suggests, it was not the first report that the U.S. government has put out, but it was the first one that I ever read. I had read, the others, and seen something in the news. I was like, oh yeah, okay. But I actually read the 4th National Climate Assessment, and suddenly I'm like, oh, wait a sec. This is going to impact my kids. Now you got my attention. Because before that, I was like, oh yeah, way out in the future, people in other countries, maybe here in California, a little more heat, a little more drought. I didn't really understand what it meant for us here in California and in Placer County. A few years ago, the Placer County Board of Supervisors, they did their sustainability plan. And in that plan, they looked at what it's going to mean for us right here in Placer County. So one of the things that they look at is what our temperature is going to be like if we do nothing. And in Placer County, one of the things that they have in their assessment is that Granite Bay could go from an average of about 4 days a year with temperatures at or above 104 degrees to 53 days a year with temperatures at or above 104 degrees. Some of those days could be significantly above 104 degrees, 110, 115, 120. That report also looks at other projections for Placer County. what does it mean to us in terms of wildfire and drought and snowpack? And guess what? Even though we know we need to do a better job managing forests, they're projecting a lot more land lost to wildfires, more drought, and less water. By the end of this century, the Sierra Nevadas could have 65% less snowpack when we have more people who need more water. That's not the future I want for my kids. That's not the future I want for myself either, but I wouldn't do this for myself. I'd be like, oh man, we really blew that. I guess I'm gonna have to stay inside a lot more. But I won't accept that for my kids. I cannot accept that for my kids. What I want for my kids' future is that they can go out and enjoy this beautiful world and do things with their kids and their grandkids that I've done with them. So like we love going up to Tahoe. My dad has a condo up on South Shore. And that's a beautiful place. I cried last year when I went up there after the wildfire. In the last 2 years in California, we have lost 20% of the sequoias in this state. These trees grow nowhere else in the world. They are magnificent, and some of them are more than 3,000 years old. But the type of fires that we're seeing now, they have never had to experience that. And if you read the Fourth National Climate Assessment, you'll see that scientists have already determined that we have had 50% more land burned in the western United States as a direct result of the impacts of climate change, even after you take into consideration other things such as forest management. So I would like my kids to live in a world where they could go on beach vacations with their kids. Who doesn't love a good beach vacation, right? But by the end of this century, if we do nothing, the world could lose 50% of its beaches to sea level rise. Waikiki is already bringing in sand, and they're talking about building seawalls and stuff to protect their beach. But that's an expensive thing to do, and it changes the beach if you do that. When my son and I go on these beach vacations, we like to go scuba diving. I love scuba diving, and scuba diving, it is fun to be underwater, but you kind of want to see things when you're swimming under there. At 1.5 degrees of warming, we could lose 90% of the world's coral reefs. And at 2 degrees of warming, we could lose 99% of the world's coral reefs. We're currently on track to exceed 2 degrees of warming by the end of this century. That's not the world. That's not the future I want for my kids. The good thing is, that future has not yet been written. Scientists cannot predict the future. They are not fortune tellers. They are number junkies, they are data geeks. They take all this stuff and they say, if you do this, then that will happen. But if we do this, then that will happen. They cannot predict the future because we will create it. We have the power to create the future. And we can create a better future. We don't have to have that future I just told you about, because that one kind of sucks. I don't want that for my kids. I want something better. We have the power to change the future because we know what the problem is. We know what the solutions are, and most importantly, the solutions exist right now. The only thing standing between us and the better future is our will to make it happen. That's it. So, tonight I'm not here asking for money. Please give it to these wonderful organizations because they're doing what needs to be done. They are planting trees and protecting land, which will sequester more carbon. I'm here asking you for something much more valuable. I am asking you to believe in the words of Margaret Mead, who said, "Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. You guys already believe that, or you wouldn't be here. You wouldn't be donating money to groups trying to improve our life here in Placer County. I'm now asking you to take that same concept to change the world as a group and think of that in a bigger sense. Because global warming is not just a global problem, it is a personal problem because it impacts all the people that we love. So a lot of people get upset, they think like, oh my God, global warming, how do we solve it? It's so big. And it is, it's a huge problem. But how do you solve a huge problem? You take little steps, you work together, you do exactly what we're doing right here. So even if you cannot see people, writing a check next to you, there's people out there who are taking action. So tonight I'm going to give you 3 things that you can do to change the future. 1, take personal actions. And these are all flexible. You do it the way you want. You could eat less meat. You could, get rid of your reusable water bottle. Not the reusable ones. Get rid of the plastic water bottles. Use reusable. Toss out your plastic shampoo bottles. Go to shampoo bars. These little things, are they going to change the world? No. You can also do bigger things. You can get rid of your gas appliances and replace them with electric ones. You can get solar on your house. You can drive an EV like Parmes does, like I do. They're fun. These things, they're not by themselves going to change the world, but they're important because it reminds you every day, I'm doing something, and you see it, and you can make incremental changes. This week you get rid of your plastic toothbrush and you get, bamboo, and then next week you do something else, and the week after that you do something else. Then the second thing is do something on the community level. You're doing that here tonight. You're here donating to these great organizations. On the community level, you can also join a group like CCL. We'd love to have you, and we'll tell you what's going on. You can make a commitment to do something in your community, like you can go out and do some tree planting with Ruff. You might donate money every time you sell a house or get a new Taekwondo student, donate to a local group. The community part is important because 1, you're going to see the results. And 2, if you have other people that you're working on this with, they're going to motivate you when you go, God, yeah, not accepting that straw, it's not going to save the world. Or, gee, nothing is happening on the national or international level. So community, it keeps you motivated. Then the third thing is, do something on the national or international level. This is where so many people just give away their power. They're like, oh, that doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how I vote. It doesn't matter if I write to my congressperson. Nobody at that big company cares what I say. Well, those are your exact reasons why you should do it. If you think that your congressperson or your elected official only cares about getting reelected, tell them how they can get reelected. If you think that the big companies only care about making your money, which they do, tell them how to make your money, get your money. If you start buying this instead of that, they're going to go, okay, well, I'm going to give them that because I want their money. And is your one letter to your bank saying, please divest from fossil fuels going to change them and make them go, oh, okay, you just wrote a letter, I think I'm going to stop doing that. No. But when 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, 1 million people start doing this, that's how the world changes. The future is not yet written. Our kids are counting on us to change it and make it the better future for them. So let's create a future for them where they can thrive. Thank you.